Una ley de Florida convierte una decisión de gasto de un funcionario local en la categoría legal que puede abrir un proceso de suspensión, con el tiempo, de remoción. Y no expone solo a los comisionados, alcanza a la alcaldesa del condado, a otros funcionarios condales y a los alcaldes y consejos de las 34 municipalidades. No hay remoción automática, pero pone el cargo en juego. Esto es lo que dice la ley, quien la defiende y quien la cuestiona. Que hablen los que estuvieron ahí. Se llama Senate Bill 1134, Acciones oficiales de gobiernos locales. Entra en vigor el 1 de enero de 2027 y anula las políticas locales que la ley define como DEI. Prohíbe gastar en ellas y permite que cualquier residente demande al condado o al municipio que la incumpla. Clasifica ciertas violaciones cometidas en capacidad oficial como misfeasance o malfeasance, la categoría que puede abrir la suspensión y eventual remoción de un funcionario. No nació en Miami-Dade, la planteó el senador Clay Yarborough, dentro de la agenda del gobernador Ron DeSantis contra las políticas de diversidad, equidad e inclusión. En el Senado pasó por 3 comités y el Pleno la votó 25-11. El gobernador Ron DeSantis la firmó el 22 de abril de 2026. Quedó como capítulo 2026-43. Primero, el nivel estatal. En el Senado de Florida, el autor la defendió y otros la cuestionaron. Estas son sus palabras.
Within the last year or two, that position was changed to Chief of Analytics. Why? I'm not sure. If there wasn't any issue there with it. The City of Gainesville pays its Director of Equity and Inclusion $189,000 a year, and that just followed a now what's followed is a $37,000 pay raise. That was covered by WCJB. Let's see. St. Petersburg, $219,000 to the Chief Equity Officer. Broward County has spent almost $900,000 on DEI training as of fiscal year 2020. Training includes pushing gender fluidity and transgender ideology. This training also included what was called the gender-bred person, which was used to push radical gender ideology as recently as March. And then also in the Broward County Cultural Division Organization's grant manual, cultural grants are awarded on the basis of DEI criteria rather than merit.
Yeah.
And there's some more, but I want to be respectful of your question.
No, I appreciate that, Senator, and I appreciate you listening to some of those. Well, going on that same line, looking at line 41 of the bill, it says to promote or provide.
The organization made a single executive responsible for DEI and education, but subsequently changed the position's title. In fiscal year 24-25, the City of Orlando required all grant applicants to submit DEI statements. Hillsborough County paid $572,000 for an external contract that included training that taught staff from several departments that prejudice is outside their control when it comes to race, ethnicity, and gender. Senators, this promotes division, not equity. Broward County has spent almost $900,000 on DEI training, which includes pushing the, quote, gender-bred person concept and graphic to promote gender ideology as recent as last year. And for the 2.8...
Do you have any data about the social economic impact of getting rid of these programs in one fell swoop?
Thank you for the question, Senator Roussan. So just to make sure that the elements of what we're trying to do or the elements of what I'm trying to do in the bill aren't conflated unintentionally, what we're seeking to go after through this bill are those inappropriate activities that I've laid out at the beginning of the meeting. And there are more also too that we could speak about, but that is what we are trying to go after. That's what I'm trying to rid out of our city government, of our county governments, because those are not appropriate activities using taxpayer dollars. Now, many of these activities can still take place if they're not funded with taxpayer dollars, but what we're saying is this needs to be transparent, there needs to be accountability, and I want to make sure in answering your question, and I don't think you're suggesting this, Senator, based on my relationship with you, I am not seeking, and why I explained it, to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's the combined DEI effort that's only been around for roughly a decade that is the cloak, if you will, to use the word I said earlier, under
staying on the same line and as far as what local government is concerned, I mean, the definition of even how it's defined inside the bill and how we define diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's a very broad definition that exists. So in given that broad definition, how does local government determine what is allowed versus what is prohibited?
Thank you for the question. So what we also go on to do after that section where you have the three-part definition for both the counties and municipalities, Senator, we do go on to put down below that, starting for the county section in line 53 about a DEI office, and then on line 59 for a DEI officer, we spell out with a little bit more specificity what those kind of activities would be. But with regard to the definition, that's crafted in such a way as it is currently, and this is also the first stop, to try to capture, again, the references. And I, don't like to mention all of those, but they're real. We need to, deal with those, especially if they're inappropriate, especially if it has to do with our children. In Florida, we need to make sure that public DEI officer, we spell out with a little bit more specificity what those kind of activities would be. But with regard to the definition, that's crafted in such a way as it is currently, and this is also the first stop, to try to capture, again, the references. And I, don't like to mention all of those, but they're real. We need to, deal with those, especially if they're inappropriate, especially if it has to do with our children. In Florida, we need to make sure that public dollars are not being used for those purposes. Again, my door's open. If there's a better way we can define it and achieve that goal, but make sure we're not doing any exclusion that we do not intend to do, I'm very open to having that conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Senator Yarborough. And I think I will go to the next question. I think we both can agree that if we have any material that's harmful for children, we should not be promoting that at all. I want to look at lines 82 to 85 of the bill, and looking at, here's the fear that I think we all should, and I think Senator Pizzo raised this last year, and so did Senator Pasadomo, and that is the safeguards that are in place to avoid residents of bringing frivolous lawsuits. So what safeguards are in place in this to ensure that frivolous lawsuits are not going to our local governments?
Thank you, Senator Jones. So what I would say to that, Senator, is above that, where we put that an action can be brought by a resident of the county against a county that violates this section, if there is not a violation based on what we have laid out, like, for example, in line 67, the subsection 2, a county may not fund, promote directly or indirectly. It goes on to talk about the different things. Section 3, a county may not expend funds, and then Section 4 speaks to the commissioner or official acting in an official capacity, and I stress that because we're not capturing here free speech on a sidewalk that an individual
should. And I think Senator Pizzo raised this last year, and so did Senator Pasadomo, and that is the safeguards that are in place to avoid residents of bringing frivolous lawsuits. So what safeguards are in place in this to ensure that frivolous lawsuits are not going to our local governments?
Thank you, Senator Jones. So what I would say to that, Senator, is above that, where we put that an action can be brought by a resident of the county against a county that violates this section, if there is not a violation based on what we have laid out, like, for example, in line 67, the subsection 2, a county may not fund, promote directly or indirectly. It goes on to talk about the different things. Section 3, a county may not expend funds, and then Section 4 speaks to the commissioner or official acting in an official capacity, and I stress that because we're not capturing here free speech on a sidewalk that an individual city councilman, county commissioner, councilwoman, anyone like that is having to express their opinion outside of the course of an official vote of the body. So that's relevant to your question too. But the answer would be, if any of those things have occurred, then it is, I would say, ripe for an action to be filed if a resident chooses to do so. The residents aren't compelled, but they have the ability under this bill to do that if they believe the other portions of the bill have been violated.
I appreciate it. And Chair, I thank you for the latitude. I have a few more questions on that. So continue on that same line of questioning as it pertains to a resident being able to bring a lawsuit. We then use language in line 79 through 82 as far as misfeasance or malfeasance.
the bill is basically mirrored in two sections, county and municipality, and so this language reads the same in both. I know you've looked at that, Senator. There is a long list of exemptions and exceptions that we provided, and you mentioned that a moment ago. And the reason that we have written these very broadly at my direction as we've drafted the bill is so that it can cast the net very widely. And what I will tell you the intent is here is not to exclude, but to provide a more formal process. Because I think even a couple of the speakers, they mentioned in community affairs and judiciary, they pointed out that if we would leave something like Black History Month, for example, Senator, which I know is very important, especially this month of all months, we should not leave it open to just executive whim, whether it's our current executive branch or a department, administration, or any future one. So by having an established process where we refer back in the bill to, recognizing or promoting state holidays.
El 21 de julio, el debate llegó al Board of County Commissioners de Miami-Dade, punto 6b1. 13 comisionados, divididos. Cada uno, completo.
Our next discussion item is 6B1. Commissioner Lopez, you are the prime sponsor of this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for placing this discussion item on the agenda. A number of advocacy groups have asked me about the implications of Senate Bill 1134, which is affectionately known as the DEI bill, on the impacts on the county. It doesn't take it into effect until January 1st of 2027, but that falls within the fiscal year of our 2026-27 budget that we're currently reviewing and will take up in September during the first and second budget hearings. Those same advocacy groups have expressed concerns about the impacts and have expressed a desire for the county to challenge or to seek further clarification of Senate Bill 1134. I can tell you that it's incredibly vague, and the consequences of being accused of being either misfeasance or malfeasance and removal of office or being sued by any resident of Miami-Dade County causes me lots of concern, especially if you think we might overcorrect or undercorrect, given the vagueness of the bill. I know our county attorney's office has spent a considerable amount of time on this issue, and because of the nature of the bill and the possibility of legal action, it's best that we all limit our discussions regarding Senate Bill 1134, those discussions in public for that reason. If you have any questions, such as I've been working with the county attorney's office for months now since the bill was signed by the governor, I recommend all of you to follow up with the county attorney, but I would ask that you all consider a motion to direct the county attorney to research the county's ability.
If you all could quiet down in the back, please.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. So I would just move to direct the county attorney's office to research the county's ability to challenge the validity of Senate Bill 1134, or alternatively, ask a court to clarify how it applies to the county and then brief each commissioner individually regarding the results of their research. I continue to feel very uncomfortable about the law. I've read it so many times, as has the county attorney's office, and it continues to give me lots of reasons to be concerned, especially since the law is specific on promoting it directly or indirectly any activity or program that may fall within this law. And so, and that goes for not only us, but our staff. So I think it's important that we get some clarification, and oftentimes the only way to do so is to go to the courts.
I need to know more about it before. So maybe you can restate that to say.
Okay, then I'll restate it to explore the options available to us of the impacts of Senate Bill 1134 and get back to us individually.
With options including potentially.
Yes.
With options including.
All options. All options. I would say all options.
All options.
I think all options should be on the table.
Sorry, but all right, we got a motion. We got a second by Commissioner Steinberg, and Commissioner Gilbert, you're still recognized. I stripped you from the recognition because you were talking about lawsuits and stuff. Just get back on it. But
it was a comma, and you assumed it was a period, and then it's like went on, and it was a thing. Okay, so no, I don't want people to come after us for money, but if we create an application process for, I don't know, our community-based organization funds, money that we give out. And for instance, some of the groups that are affected, they apply, but we don't accept their application because we can't, under the new law, then they get to seek declaratory judgment against us. That's how you get to court faster. That's just how you get to court faster. I appreciate the suing thing. We can't, it's gonna be hard for us to sue you all. So if you want to get to court before January, I think and we need somebody to tell us how to interpret this, because to your credit, Mr. Chairman, there's peril here for elected officials and for public officials who actually go against this statute. So it's dangerous. I think we create a process, because they won't be able to receive funds under that process because of the statute. They look at it and, I mean, that's, now the other route, I don't know if this is possible, we could also just give all of our money for these type of events to the Miami Foundation and let them administer it.
Well, I think it goes further than just CBOs, though. I think it's departments. It's a lot more than just.
Well, it's everything, but we could start by doing something like that and see if it's legal. You never know. I mean, we could try doing something like that.
Commissioner.
So, I think, but those are options. But I'm not advocating that they sue us for money. I'm advocating that we need to actually get in front of a judge, and that's probably the quickest way for a judge to tell us whether this law is binding or not.
I get that. Commissioner from District 12.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I think we
Please.
have to wait for the attorneys. I'm fine with the motion because we need to get their opinion. But I just want to remind this august body that during the double taxation, triple taxation days of mitigation, and some of you were here, King George, when you look at these cases, I'm going to ask you, then why the hell did you sue me back in 2006? Because truthfully, that was a state law that was passed, bipartisan, signed by the governor.
One last.
All right, Vice Chairman, I'm about to call.
Thank you.
On the motion, but
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And what I'm about to say is probably not going to be popular, and I don't expect to be the popular kid on the dais. But I am putting the county attorney's office on notice. I'm also putting the state on notice. Hell, I'm putting everybody on notice.
as a personal person, not as a commissioner.
Correct.
Of this body.
Correct. If removal is what it's going to take to stop me from urging the folk of Miami-Dade County, especially those in my district, who are going to be affected, if removal is the option of the state of the governor, then removal is going to have to be. I intend to encourage my residents and those who I support to break this law. I intend, come on, please. I intend, if possible, to fund organizations that support uplifting this community. And if that is making some people uncomfortable, well, I believe those in Tallahassee should have thought it through, because now they're making us feel uncomfortable. And I am not going back to my district facing the people who put me in office to represent their voice and their position and tell them that their representative chose to hold on to a seat as opposed to fighting for their position. So I'm just putting everyone on notice. I intend to encourage a different result from many up here, but I'm not going to back down on this one. This is the one where we put the flag into the ground.
All right, we got a motion, we got a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
State to intervene.
All right, so I might end up cutting this short. I think it is entirely negligent for any of us up here to encourage a lawsuit against myself, because I am a taxpayer of this county, and that'll be me paying for that lawsuit and anyone else that's a property owner paying property taxes. So Commissioner Gilbert, respectfully, and Vice Chair, respectfully, I think it is entirely negligent to encourage anyone to sue this county, whether it is a philosophical, ideological, personal, or not, whatever it is. You just, I think it's completely, Senator Garcia, you're not one to correct. I mean, you are not one to correct. I mean, out of everyone up here, that was. I'm not gonna say what the word is, but I just, look, I think as I continue recognizing the rest of you, be mindful that we are not encouraging anyone to sue themselves if they're property owners. Because this is, I mean, it's just completely negligent to say that. I understand the sentiment behind it. I understand that that might be a recourse for us to then turn around and get the state to intervene. But we are not encouraging that to be the case at all. That is not a policy of this board. That is not where we are going with this.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I will say that you actually hit the nail on the head on a point there, which is, and I was waiting to let everyone speak, but I'll say it because it was a good segue. Is so, in addition, of course, to the countless conversations with the county attorney's office on this topic that my office and myself has had, the mayor and myself has had several conversations. We've actually rolled up our sleeves, and I think this is a good moment to allow and to say to the community that we are not just taking what the state passed and the governor signed and blindly implementing it. We are rolling up our sleeves, and we're digging deeper and seeing what other services these organizations offer, who they help in our community, what larger groups that are not just one minority group. We're not trying to circumvent the law. We're not trying to find a loophole, but we are trying to dig deeper and see what broader service do these organizations help fund and support in the entire community, not just in a minority portion of it, in order to make sure that we can maintain some of these services. The mayor has been an advocate of that since this was even a discussion prior to it being signed by the governor. And again, we've had several conversations where we've actually discussed this. So again, it is not something that we're just blindly implementing something that the state passed. We are exploring all options, obviously jointly with the county attorney's office. We want to make sure that we run no fouls here. And we are, in this particular case, and some may disagree with this one word, but we need to be conservative because they are personal repercussions that the state can take on this body, including, I believe, removal is one of them, right? So we're making sure we run no fouls, but that we definitely diligently explore all options on this.
So I look forward to the conversations that we're going to have. Geri, I am wondering, because it is a discussion item, I'm not so much interested in speaking of the litigation because I want to quell and reduce it, not increase it. I don't think that's the path forward for a number of reasons. But why can't we, as a board, through either our home rule charter powers or our own policy-making decisions as a body, create something that allows us to maneuver around this the way that we have in so many other areas? So they passed a poorly worded statute that we can craft our own ways around potentially, or can we add something to our home rule charter that speaks to this? I believe today is the deadline to get it on the ballot come November. Is there something that we can write into our home rule charter that speaks to this issue? And if the answer is no, September or August.
Commissioner, we do not believe that the charter is a vehicle for amending, or preempting state law at this point in time. However, we do understand the impact that this will have on the county's operations going forward, both from the promotion standpoint as well as the funding standpoint and on the community. And we have been meeting, I would say, at least 3 times weekly, some days 3 times daily, because the breadth of this statute is expansive and it will touch many areas of this county and the way we operate in ways that people maybe have not even considered as of yet. And I just want to pledge to you that we've taken it seriously and we understand what this means to the community, and we will stand ready to speak with each of you about any options that you will have going forward, hopefully before the budget hearing in September.
And final question.
Drafted items that comes from Tallahassee. Poor drafting, it seems to be the norm. So not the exception. But that being said, it needs to bear itself out. And there are a lot of impacted organizations that should ask for clarification. We are not the best suited to do that. Presently, statute. So I agree with you. We've all read it and we have a million questions. It was poorly drafted. Respectfully, for those of you who were part of the legislature, one of the many poorly drafted items that comes from Tallahassee. Poor drafting, it seems to be the norm. So not the exception. But that being said, it needs to bear itself out. And there are a lot of impacted organizations that should ask for clarification. We are not the best suited to do that. Presently, we have to evaluate it, take a position based on our risk, and move forward on our budget. But even then, it's going to be very difficult to prove causation. And our injury and our standing are very different from their injury and their standing. So I appreciate that we want to help, but for us, it's a very, very different situation than for those that are impacted.
Commissioner from District 12.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I think we have to wait for the attorneys. I'm fine with the motion because we need to get their opinion. But I just want to remind this august body that during the double taxation, triple taxation days of mitigation, and some of you were here, King George, you know who he was, and the commission, there was a bill passed in Tallahassee, bipartisan, signed by Governor Charlie Crist, eliminating mitigation, not making it a one county issue, because that was an issue we had to get around. And the county sued. The county sued over that state law. Eventually, we reached an agreement, King George and I, and mitigation was given up by the county because legally this was a state law. But the county went into the courts. First lost at the beginning because it was in Tallahassee, and then brought it down to a local judge here in Miami-Dade County who had once been a county attorney. So all I'm telling you, I'm not, because I agree with our chairman that these are different times, it's a different world, and I do think that we have to be very smart in the way we deal with the reality of what's happening from Tallahassee. But the fact that if the county has an opinion on a certain law that may impact the county, the excuse that that's not one, it may not be the best option, may not be the one we want to take, and may not be the one you guys recommend. But in the past, you did sue over a state law that was passed that supported municipalities, because I was the one that had to defend the other side and fight you. So I can tell you that's not impossible. Now, whether that will place you in the same position as an organization that maybe is impacted directly, that we can debate. But when you look at these cases, I'm going to ask you, then why the hell did you sue me back in 2006? Because truthfully, that was a state law that was passed, bipartisan, signed by the governor.
Sure, you're not, like, it's either you or you lose your spot.
All right, so
All right.
I want us to just take a moment. If you look around the room, look around this dais. This bill affects in some form, in some capacity, affects every one of us. Okay? So this is such an expansive bill. So you may think, oh, it's some, bill that won't affect me, but it does. But it does, because it affects every one of us up here to some degree. That's how broadly this bill is written. And so to that, I want to, first of all, thank you, Commissioner Lopez, for bringing this forward. I think it's important that we have this conversation, and of course, mindful of the conversation, because we do have our attorneys over there, and we do want to make sure that we put ourselves in the best posture possible. So I just want clarity in exactly what you'd like us to try to resolve today or give direction with. But I will say this. We do need to be careful. I mean, we could look at this through many different lenses. And I, for one, obviously, because there's so much ambiguity, I would take advantage of that ambiguity personally. But, as they look at me, but I do think that, to have the attorneys explore and come back to us and individually, I think is the smart first step. That way we get as much clarity and we can have these conversations, because if we do end up in any sort of situation in the future, I want to make sure that we, again, put ourselves in the best posture forward. So, Chairman, I do think, if that was a motion, I'll just rephrase it. I'm happy to second that motion. So I have an
It's
amendment.
or.
May I?
It's or, though. It doesn't mean it's not directing them to do it. It's either or.
I just want them to research it and then get back to us individually to let us know what our options are.
Yeah, because let me tell you my one concern about going with the route of just going straight to the courts is that, well, I don't know, legally what we can and can't do in terms of standing, but that's for them to figure out. But, I don't want to have them determine for us. Like, I'd rather us create our positions. What if there are, they're looking at other municipalities and other counties that are also being affected of this up and down the coast, right, of this wonderful state. So what's going to happen is some may have a more liberal interpretation, and I don't want to then hurt those municipalities or counties because now we're seeking some sort of rendering from a court that may look at it through a more, as the term was used, conservative lens, and we may now hurt maybe some other municipality in the state. So I don't know. So I like the idea of supporting the direction to explore. I need to know more about it before. So maybe you can restate that to say.
El debate no resolvió nada. El BOL pidió opciones legales y dejó la decisión de fondo para las audiencias de presupuesto de septiembre. Detrás del debate late una pregunta mayor: ¿quién fiscaliza de verdad al poder local? Porque los funcionarios son empleados de los votantes, no al revés. El artículo completo, con el texto de la ley y las citas de la sesión, está en newsmiamidade.com.